Thank you, Michaela. And as Michaela just said, Tate Reeves will face off against Brandon Presley in the November general election. Presley is currently serving as Public Service Commissioner for the Northern District. He also formerly served as mayor of Nettleton. He spoke to his voters after winning the primary in his hometown.
I'm still committed in this campaign to the values that I learned right here.
Yeah, boy.
The values of small town leadership, where in elected office you can do the things that help other people, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
My sister Greta's here. Greta and I and my brother Greg grew up just on the other side of that house. My daddy was murdered the first day I was in the 3rd grade. And my mama was a single parent long before the news media and others started talking about single parents. I understand what Mississippi families go through. I understand what it's like to struggle.
Yeah.
I saw my mama write a check at Mr. Bill Lee's service station at the Texaco just to fill up with gas, and she said, "Mr. Lee, can you hold this check till Friday?"
Yeah.
That's where our families are in Mississippi. That's where our people need a governor that stands on their side.
The general election is November 7th. We want to go back to the old Capitol Inn where Governor Tate Reeves is speaking right now. Let's listen in.
Well, there's no doubt that my opponent, Brandon Presley, is being funded by out-of-state interest to the tune of $1 million from far-left activists, from left-wing celebrities, and there's no doubt that the people of Mississippi need to know that, because what we've seen in this country, starting at the presidency with Joe Biden, who ran as a moderate and is governed as far left as you can possibly imagine, my opponent would be no different. He's trying to sell the people of Mississippi a bill of goods. He's trying to claim that he's one thing while being funded by out-of-state special interest to the tune of $1 million. But look, I'm confident because I know that the people of Mississippi, the voters of Mississippi, are smart enough that they're not going to fall for that.
Earlier today, Lieutenant Governor Hogan said he had concerns regarding dark money. Are you expressing the same concerns about dark money that's been used to fuel some of these campaigns?
Well, you know, that's the interesting thing about the Democrats. They've actually taken their far left liberal money and they've donated it directly to my opponent's campaign. They're not trying to hide the fact that they're going to govern as far left liberals, and it's just a matter of making sure the people of Mississippi know about it.
How competitive do you think this next race will be? How competitive do you think this next race will be?
Well, look, I'm going to tell you, I played basketball just up the street here at Millsaps, and our coach was a guy named John Stroud. Coach John Stroud used to tell us we're going to start as if we're 20 points behind, and we're going to try to cut it to 10 by halftime and give us a chance to win in the end. And so that's the way we're going to run this race. We're going to run full speed ahead because the future of Mississippi is at stake. And when the future of Mississippi is at stake, and the Mississippi that my kids and my grandkids ultimately will grow up in is at stake, it's worth fighting for. And so we're going to fight every single day for Mississippi values during this campaign. And I think at the end, the people will go to the polls in overwhelming majorities and vote for us in November.
Governor, there was a close race last time. Do you expect an even closer race this time?
Well, look, all I know is that we feel very confident about where we are. We feel as if we've made tremendous progress as a state. Mississippi has momentum. This is Mississippi's time. And look, the voters will go to the polls in November, and they'll let us know how close it needs to be. But I will tell you, I'm extremely confident that conservatives all across Mississippi are going to show up, and they're going to reject the far left ideals of the National Democrat Party that my opponent supports.
There's been some changes to voting policy. They weren't in place enough to affect this election, but they may affect the general. What is your opinion on the changes that Mississippi's seeing in their voting laws?
Well, what I would tell you is that in Mississippi, we are very serious about ensuring that we make it easy to vote but hard to cheat, and that's what I've been focused on, and that's what we're going to continue to focus on. Election integrity is important, and we've seen over the last 10 years in this country, different states have different laws, and that's perfectly fine. But in our state, we're going to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat, and that's what I'm going to do to fight for every single day.